2.
I thought the Rams crushed. Puna 4 defensive line, that was an area of need, and Devontae Adams, and retain Matt Stafford. And their defense, Thanksgiving on, was arguably the best in the league. Go ask Sam Darnold, sacked 9 times. So this defense is just getting better every month because they're so young and inexpensive. I put the Rams at 2. Go back to that game in the snow in Philly. They're down to the 15-yard line with a chance to go with 2 turnovers, with a chance to go in for the win. It's a real team heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I thought they had 3 turnovers, but I could be wrong. But the Rams really are such an insanely fascinating team, and I'm so excited to see how this all gets written because I think they are such a great team, somehow unknown, but also still have a giant question mark that we have to just kind of wait and see. So, of course, we're going to have the Eagles 1, above the Rams, especially after they just won the Super Bowl. So I understand that. But I'm definitely not the type of person that just says, oh, they won the Super Bowl, they're automatically number 1 team. I don't do that. I pushed back against Kansas City Chiefs fan all last year, and so I'm not going to do that either. But I'll save that more for like the Eagles take. I really just want to focus on the Rams specifically here. But when you look and see how the Rams last few seasons unfolded, and you could see how things happened with injuries, and obviously especially last year, and I talked a ton about this throughout last season about how this Rams team was just significantly better than people actually understand, just from an immediate roster construction, not even counting the actual growth of the team as a whole and the actual individual players as the season went on. But they were so marred with injury that it was just impossible to evaluate. And so, yeah, this team is significantly better than people truly realize. And I'm a firm believer that Sean McVey, he's in the category of coaches that, one, even if you just give him an average team, the dude, he's someone that you still don't want to face. I think he's arguably, outside of maybe Andy Reid, he's arguably the second scariest coach you could face, quite frankly, just because of what that man can do from multiple layers of coaching. He knows how to maximize elite talent. He knows how to make good talent great. He knows how to make average talent good. He knows how to win a tough game with just average talent. He's the rare type of coach that essentially knows how to do it all. You have some coaches that are really only great when when they have great talent, which doesn't mean that they're a bad coach, but like in order for them to really thrive, they need great talent, and they're great at maximizing the talent. Not all coaches are like that. They're just not. I think Mike McCarthy is actually a great coach at just making kind of average talent like pretty good. But can he make a great team elite? No, he can't. So it's all different layers, and I think Sean McVay is the rare type of coach that essentially can do it all, which is truly rare. I mean, it just is. So I think that's just an awesome place to be with the Rams. So when you give him the pieces, when you give him the guys, like, it's just it's gonna be scary. Like it's gonna be a team that you're just like, all right, here we go. Not to mention, not only is he great from an X's and O's standpoint, but he's also great at actually having the team ready to play, which again, not all coaches. Some coaches are great at X's and O's, but not getting the team ready. Some coaches are great at getting the team ready, but not so much the X's and O's. So it's like, I fail to see where the actual flaw or any limitation that Sean McVay has as a coach. So that alone gives you a massive advantage to have. But the big question mark that I alluded to when I first started this video, it is actually indeed Matthew Stafford. Because, and I said this when I talked about, when I did the whole clip as a whole, is that, again, I think Matthew Stafford is truly special and an awesome player, but he is just at the perfect age. This will be my continued take throughout this throughout this season until we, throughout this offseason until we actually start playing the games is that, Matthew Stafford is special. He is an awesome quarterback, but he is at the perfect age where we just have no idea what to expect out of that quarterback. That if you just get good to great quarterback play, this Rams team is going to be a top team. If you get great and he can rewind the clock a little bit and play high level ball, this team could and should arguably be the best team in the NFL. If you get an older man quarterback who's sometimes great, sometimes not, has games where you're just like, what the heck was that? And Matthew Stafford, again, regardless of the injuries that this team had, he had those moments. I mean, he had a handful of games where you were just like, dude, what was that? Like that, what was that? And Colin kind of said like, oh, it just took him a little bit longer to like warm up and stuff. And some of these other poor weather games when you're older, it's like it could be a little bit harder to play on, like, and so you just don't know. You can make the argument because of the beginning of the season was so rough and he's getting banged up because the O-line's not good and there's no one really to throw to, that, he was just taking more of a beating, so he could have, just been running more on fumes as the season unfolded a little bit, that if you can kind of hit the ground running early on, you can kind of preserve Matthew Stafford and have easier games for him. I think that would be kind of a fair assessment as well. But it is a question mark. And again, you could be the biggest Rams fan, and I think that's totally okay to admit. Like, that's just what you have when you have an older quarterback. And to be clear, I'm not predicting that Stafford is going to fall off a cliff or that he's bad or this or that. Like, again, I think Stafford is awesome, but you're just at the age where you just have no idea. You just don't. And because of the way how last season unfolded, it's even hard to 100% use last season as a jumping off point, as even a reference point, because of all the injuries, that I then do think you're just making these games harder and harder on Stafford. So it's no surprise that by week 8, 10, 11, 12, 13 onward, that like you're going to maybe get some inconsistent play from Stafford. You're going to be like, this guy, this guy only has so much left in the tank. He's not 28 years old. So I think actually a lot of the success for the Rams could also really be dependent on getting the momentum from their team, winning some games early, and, feeling good. I think the Rams could be a team where if they're fortunate enough, and, you don't know what the schedule exactly will unfold, but if they're the team that can start off like 5-1, 6-2, 7-1, that type of thing, I think more than any other team, that would be massive for them. Massive, 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 because I think the name of the game is to just make things a lot easier for Stafford as this season unfolds. So then when you are at the end of the season and it's time to like get the best out of them and have Stafford be Stafford, you want him to be as fresh as possible. You don't want him taking a beating. You don't want him in these big shootouts and throwing the ball 35, 40 times week after week after week, because that does it. It wears you down. It wears you down, especially at that age. Your just ability to recover just gets, less and less and less. So the easier games you have, the more momentum that you can have, the better, probably more than pretty much any of these other teams right now. So I just think that will probably be such a key for the Rams. And I think also like a team like the Rams, if they're, and we're obviously getting way ahead right now, but like, I think a team like the Rams getting a bye, for instance, would be significantly bigger for them and benefit them way more than, say, the Lions, the Commanders, or the Eagles. I think having less games, having Stafford take less of a beating, and only focusing, especially being, at home and all of that. Because again, he is an old quarterback. And I'm not trying to act like he's like this old man and he's fragile at any moment, but I just think he probably really is on that cusp. And even the way how the Rams handled his contract, they sense that as well. And I see this team as pretty much like they have this immediate Super Bowl window that I think they can legitimately seize on, but it is an immediate window mainly because of Stafford, that even though the team itself and coaching, if they were somehow able to replace that quarterback and put in another top quarterback, then that window would keep going. But you have to imagine that they'll have to draft a quarterback. Then, like unless, and I don't even know what quarterback could potentially be available that would be great, that they would be able to get. Like, it's not going to be a Lamar, it's not going to be a Josh. I mean, like, essentially kind of like ironically, like a Jared Goff type situation where you can take him from the other team, but he's now, 7-8 years younger. I don't know off the top of my head what quarterback would potentially be in that situation in a couple of years. So that's why I really do think that it's kind of a little bit of like this very interesting, like all in of like, we have this great coach, we really have this up and coming roster, which should be great. And we have the quarterback who's great, but we're really flirting with not being so great anymore, but like still obviously can do it. So they're in an incredibly unique situation. And they have a real chance to win it all now, but for how long is the question mark. And so that's why I think this team is such a fascinating team, because I believe in so much what they have, and I'm not going to bet against Sean McVey especially, and in a vacuum I'm not betting against Matthew Stafford, but we even Tom Brady started to fall apart. Like, it just is what it is. So to me, this team will just absolutely be like, if Stafford is still just even remotely Stafford, look out. If Stafford's having these inconsistent games because it's kind of like, I don't know, did he lose a step? That then kind of change, then that changes everything. So, Colin obviously has them very high. If you look at PFF, they got him at 9. Like I said in one of my previous videos, it's unclear to me if PFF's rankings consider coaching. If this is just strictly like roster construction and kind of their own rankings in terms of, rating the players, because I just think that this roster is clearly good enough. And when you combine that with McVey, it's just like, what are we talking about? Because then you can see some of these other teams that they have ahead of them, unless they're factoring in a decline from Stafford, which, again, I actually think that that's wildly unpredictable, which is why I'm not sitting here with any strong views about that. But just, I am putting a big question mark over Stafford's head, which I think is fair personally. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Los Angeles Rams being the second best team in the NFL, according to Colin Cowherd? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.